Why do millennials and Gen Z feel like they're locked out of opportunities while baby boomers hold the keys? This generational divide seems to be growing wider, with younger generations grappling with skyrocketing housing prices, crushing student debt, and an increasingly competitive job market. All while boomers seem to have it all: the homes, the careers, the retirement funds. What's behind this resentment? Are the boomers to blame, or is there more to the story? How did we get here, and what can be done to bridge the gap? Let's dive in and uncover the boomer effect on our economic struggles.
Older workers tend to be the most knowledgeable and the most experienced. When they retire, that hurts the productivity of everybody left behind, and that drags on the economy through productivity growth.
An aging America, led mostly by the baby boomers, has made life more difficult for young Americans.
I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week, okay? I do not make enough to live on my own. I would not make enough to pay rent, water, electric, and eat. You can sit here and you can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but I've been working my tail end off just to barely make it by. And respectfully, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. And that is what you created, not Gen Z. We're just here getting started. You've been doing it for the last 20 years. You tell me how it got ruined. We can sit here and we can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but you let the economy turn into what it did. And now it's Gen Z's fault because we don't want to work to fix your mistakes.
The baby boomer generation, born between 1946 and 1964, is often viewed as one of the most influential in modern history. This was a generation that grew up during a time of post-war prosperity and witnessed monumental cultural and technological changes. They had access to affordable education, stable jobs, and an economy that seemed boundless in its opportunities. From the civil rights movement to the moon landing, boomers experienced the world in a way that shaped their outlook on life. But here's where the narrative shifts. As boomers aged, they became the largest demographic group, and their influence over politics, business, and culture grew. Many entered well-paying jobs, bought homes at affordable prices, and invested in retirement plans that provided security for the future. This stability allowed boomers to build wealth and create a sense of security that many younger generations find elusive. However, the boomers' success came with unintended consequences. As the generation accumulated wealth, the economic landscape began to shift. The cost of living started to rise, housing markets became less accessible, and the job market transformed with the onset of globalization and technology. By the time millennials and Gen Z entered the workforce, the rules had changed. Affordable education became a distant memory. Entry-level jobs required advanced degrees, and the prospect of home ownership felt like a distant dream. This growing divide led to a feeling of resentment among younger generations. The narrative that boomers had it easy while millennials and Gen Z have to work harder took root. The question is, are boomers truly responsible for these economic shifts? Or were they just riding the wave of an evolving world? What role did political policies, corporate interests, and social dynamics play in this story? The stakes are high for both boomers and younger generations, and it's essential to understand how their legacies are intertwined. The millennial generation, born between 1981 and 1996, grew up in a world that promised success through hard work, education, and determination. They were told that going to college would lead to a rewarding career, that buying a home was within reach, and that achieving the American dream was just a matter of effort. But the reality they faced was starkly different. Student debt became a defining characteristic of the millennial experience. As college tuition skyrocketed, many students took on substantial loans to fund their education, expecting that a good job would follow graduation. Instead, they found a job market that had shifted, with entry-level positions requiring more experience and advanced degrees, often with lower salaries. The burden of student debt, combined with stagnant wages, made it increasingly difficult for millennials to get ahead. Housing affordability became another significant obstacle. Unlike boomers, who could buy homes at relatively low prices, millennials entered the housing market at a time when property values had soared. The dream of owning a home became a distant reality for many, with high rents and strict lending requirements creating additional barriers. This led to a generation stuck in a cycle of renting, unable to build equity or invest in their future. The job market transformation also played a crucial role in the millennial struggle. Globalization and technology changed the landscape, with many jobs moving overseas or becoming automated. This shift meant that even with a college degree, many millennials found themselves working in low-paying, unstable jobs with few benefits. The traditional career ladder that boomers climbed seemed broken, leaving younger generations to navigate a precarious gig economy. These struggles have contributed to a sense of frustration and resentment toward the baby boomer generation. Millennials and Gen Z often view boomers as having had it easier, with more opportunities and a stable economic environment.
You can see the baby boomers, they were a very selfish generation. They grew up in the 50s when it was the golden era, and then as the world started to deteriorate, they were heading the clouds like, no, everything's perfect, America, #1.
This perception fuels the growing divide between generations, leading to the popularity popular "OK Boomer" meme and a broader cultural rift. But is it fair to blame boomers entirely for these struggles? Are systemic issues and broader societal changes at play? The conflict between boomers and younger generations is more than just a meme-worthy joke. It's a reflection of deeper societal divides that impact families, workplaces, and communities. This tension stems from a combination of economic disparities, differing values, and miscommunications that have been building for decades. Let's explore the roots of this intergenerational tension and understand why it's so pervasive. One major source of tension is the economic landscape boomers inherited versus the one millennials and Gen Z face today. Boomers grew up in a time of relative prosperity with stable jobs, affordable education, and a booming housing market. This gave them a head start in building wealth and achieving financial security. In contrast, younger generations entered a job market that had undergone significant changes, with automation, globalization, and gig-based work becoming more common. This shift left many millennials and Gen Z feeling like the economic playing field was inherently tilted against them. Another contributing factor is the differing values and priorities between generations. Boomers often emphasize traditional values such as hard work, loyalty, and long-term commitment to employers. In contrast, millennials and Gen Z value flexibility, work-life balance, and a greater emphasis on social and environmental issues. This clash of values can lead to misunderstandings in the workplace and strained relationships within families. Miscommunication further amplifies the tension. Boomers, being digital immigrants, often prefer face-to-face communication and traditional media, while younger generations, who grew up in the digital age, are more comfortable with social media and instant messaging. This communication gap can create friction and reinforce stereotypes, with boomers viewing millennials as entitled or lazy, and millennials seeing boomers as out of touch and resistant to change. The political landscape has also played a role in driving intergenerational tension. Boomers tend to be more conservative, while younger generations lean toward progressive ideals. This divide is evident in debates over social issues, climate change, and government policies. The result is a growing sense of polarization that makes it challenging to find common ground. Despite these differences, there's an opportunity for reconciliation and collaboration. By acknowledging the unique strengths and experiences of each generation, we can bridge the gap and work together to create a more inclusive and equitable society. So, how can we foster this understanding and move beyond the stereotypes that fuel intergenerational tension? Let's explore some of the most common myths surrounding boomers and separate fact from fiction. Myth 1. Boomers had it easy. The perception that boomers had everything handed to them is widespread. While it's true that boomers grew up in a time of post-war prosperity, they also faced their own set of challenges. From the threat of nuclear war to the Vietnam draft, boomers lived through significant upheaval and uncertainty. They also navigated multiple economic crises, including the oil shocks of the 1970s and the stock market crash of 1987. Although they had access to more stable jobs and affordable education, their journey wasn't always smooth. Myth 2. Boomers ruined the economy. Many millennials and Gen Z blame boomers for the economic issues they face today, such as the housing crisis and student debt. While boomers played a role in shaping the economy, systemic factors like globalization, automation, and government policies also had a significant impact. Boomers didn't single-handedly create the challenges younger generations face. They were part of a larger economic landscape that evolved over time. Myth 3. Boomers are out of touch. Boomers are often portrayed as resistant to change and out of touch with modern technology. However, this stereotype ignores the fact that boomers were at the forefront of many technological advancements, including the rise of personal computers and the internet. Many boomers have adapted to the digital age and are active on social media platforms, challenging the notion that they're stuck in the past. Myth 4. Boomers don't care about younger generations. The idea that boomers are indifferent to the struggles of millennials and Gen Z isn't entirely accurate. While some boomers may hold traditional views, many are deeply concerned about the future and work to support younger generations. They are mentors, parents, and grandparents who care about the well-being of their families and communities. By debunking these myths, we can start to see that the boomer generation is more diverse and complex than the stereotypes suggest. Instead of focusing on the divides, what if we looked for common ground and ways to bridge the generational gap? So how do we move beyond these myths and build a more inclusive society where all generations can thrive? The generational divide between boomers and younger generations may seem insurmountable, but by understanding the myths and realities, we can find common ground. The baby boomers played a significant role in shaping the world we live in today, but they aren't solely responsible for the economic challenges millennials and Gen Z face. The key to bridging the gap is empathy and open communication. But in the end, are we willing to put aside stereotypes and work together to address the challenges that affect us all? If you found this video insightful, check out my recent video, Middle Class Meltdown: Why Working Harder Isn't Enough Anymore. It explores why the American dream feels out of reach for many and what steps we can take to reclaim it.